Dead space. In the 26th century, Earth's resources are depleted, and humanity survives by literally tearing apart entire planets for raw materials under the iron grip of megacorporations. The Church of Unitology preaches that death is just a transformation, and they're not entirely wrong. They're just horrifyingly right in ways they never intended. When a mining ship discovers an alien artifact called the Red Marker on the planet Aegis 7, it unleashes an ancient infection that turns the dead into grotesque, multi-limbed abominations called necromorphs. These creatures repurpose your corpse into something that violates every natural law. It's a universe where corporate greed, religious fanaticism, and cosmic horror converge into the ultimate argument for defunding NASA. Super Mario Bros. Welcome to Dino Hatton, a parallel dimension where evolution took a very different turn. 65 million years ago, a meteorite split reality into two dimensions. Ours where mammals evolved, and theirs where dinosaurs survived. This isn't the colorful mushroom kingdom you remember. Dino Hatton is a grimy, industrial nightmare ruled by the tyrannical King Koopa, who's slowly merging the dimensions to expand his polluted domain. The city is a claustrophobic maze of pipes, machinery, and authoritarian surveillance where fungus has evolved into a sentient weapon. Citizens live under constant threat of being turned into mindless Goombas for the slightest infractions. It's a world where your favorite video game becomes a fever dream of dystopian body horror and environmental collapse. Control. Ever worked in a soul-crushing government office where nothing makes sense and the bureaucracy seems to have a grudge against human sanity? Welcome to the Federal Bureau of Control, where that's literally the case. The FBC is tasked with containing and studying paranatural phenomena, objects and places that violate the laws of reality in deeply unsettling ways. The oldest house, their headquarters, is itself a paranatural location that exists in a state of constant architectural flux, with rooms that appear and disappear, hallways that lead to impossible places, and an ever-present sense that the building itself is watching you. When the sinister resonance entity known as the Hiss invades, it turns FBC employees into vacant-eyed puppets chanting hypnotic mantras, while reality literally falls apart around them. The city and the city. Imagine two cities occupying the same physical space, but existing in completely separate realities, and crossing between them without proper authorization is the ultimate crime. Welcome to Bejel and Olcoma, twin cities that have somehow mastered the art of selective blindness as a form of social control. Citizens are trained from birth to unsee the other city, to literally ignore buildings, people, and entire neighborhoods that belong to their neighboring reality. It's about rewiring human perception itself. The mysterious breach organization enforces this separation with swift, brutal efficiency, disappearing anyone who accidentally or intentionally perceives both cities simultaneously. It's a place where totalitarian control operates not through surveillance cameras or secret police, but through training people to police their own perception, making citizens complicit in their own mental imprisonment. Minority Report. Picture a world where crime has been eliminated, not through social reform or education, but through psychic prediction and preemptive arrest. It's 2054, and the Department of Pre-Crime uses 3 mutated humans called precogs to foresee murders before they happen. These precogs, floating in a sensory deprivation pool and hooked up to a massive computer system, experience visions of future crimes that allow the authorities to swoop in and arrest would-be murderers for crimes they haven't committed yet. It's the ultimate surveillance state where your thoughts and future intentions are monitored, cataloged, and punished. The city is a panopticon of retinal scanners, personalized advertisements that follow you everywhere, and robotic spiders that can search every building simultaneously. It's a world where the concept of innocent until proven guilty has been replaced with guilty before you even think about it, and perfect safety comes at the cost of freedom itself. Total Recall. What if your entire life, your memories, your identity, and even your resistance to an oppressive system were all just implants designed to keep you compliant? In 2084, the mutant population of Mars lives in a state of perpetual oppression while the wealthy live in climate-controlled luxury. Earth isn't much better. It's a polluted, overcrowded nightmare where people escape through memory implants from Recall Inc., a company that sells artificial vacations and experiences directly into your brain. It's a world where your own mind is the ultimate prison, where memories can be bought and sold like commodities, and where the most terrifying question isn't who am I, but rather, am I even real? The Stand. Sometimes the apocalypse doesn't come with nuclear fire or alien invasion. It arrives as a simple sneeze. A weaponized superflu with a 99.4% mortality rate escapes from a military facility and spreads across the globe in a matter of weeks, reducing the world's population from billions to thousands. But death is just the beginning of the nightmare. The survivors find themselves drawn into a cosmic battle between good and evil, represented by the benevolent Mother Abigail and the demonic Randall Flagg, the Dark Man. Society splits into two competing visions of what comes next. The Free Zone in Boulder, Colorado, attempts to rebuild democratic civilization, while Las Vegas becomes a fascist empire ruled by Flag's supernatural charisma and powered by fear, violence, and the promise of easy answers. The real horror isn't just the plague that killed almost everyone you've ever known. It's the realization that when civilization falls, humans don't automatically become better. They become more themselves, and that's not always a good thing. Parable of the Sower. Welcome to 2025 America, where climate change, economic collapse, and social disintegration have turned the country into a patchwork of lawless wastelands and gated communities surrounded by walls and armed guards. But walls can't keep out hyperinflation, water shortages, or the violence that comes when a society completely abandons its most vulnerable members. The government has essentially stopped functioning except as a tool for corporate interests and the wealthy elite. Education is a luxury, healthcare is non-existent for most people, and slavery has returned in all but name through company towns and debt bondage. It's a world where the American dream has curdled into a nightmare of inequality and environmental devastation, where the social safety net has been completely shredded, and where the only hope for the future lies in accepting that everything familiar is going to die and building something entirely new from the ashes. The Giver. Imagine a world where pain, war, and suffering have been eliminated, along with love, color, music, and every other emotion that makes life worth living. Welcome to the community, where sameness isn't just a policy, it's a religion. Citizens take daily pills to suppress their emotions. Families are assigned rather than chosen, and even the words for concepts like love have been erased from the language. The weather is controlled, animals are extinct, and death is called release, a euphemism that hides a darker reality. It's a world where the absence of suffering also means the absence of meaning, where safety is purchased with souls, and where the greatest act of rebellion is simply feeling something real. Ready Player One. Welcome to 2045, where reality is so thoroughly broken that most of humanity has retreated into a virtual world called the Oasis. The real world is a corporate-controlled wasteland of environmental collapse, economic inequality, and urban decay, where people live stacked in trailer parks and survive on government-issued nutrition packets. The Oasis isn't just a game. It's where people go to school, work, socialize, and live their actual lives because the physical world has become essentially uninhabitable for anyone without massive wealth. When the creator of Oasis dies, he leaves behind an Easter egg hunt with his entire fortune and control of the Oasis as the prize. This triggers a corporate war led by a megacorporation that wants to monetize every aspect of the virtual world, complete with subscription fees, advertising, and debt slavery. It's a world where escapism has become the only form of existence, where pop culture nostalgia is more valuable than actual culture, and where the line between avatar and identity has been completely erased. Observer. Welcome to Krakow, 2084, where the digital plague killed thousands, and the Fifth Polish Republic rose from the ashes as a corporate police state. Society is divided into the wealthy Class A citizens who live in gleaming towers and the poor Class C masses who survive in crumbling tenement blocks. But the real nightmare isn't the economic inequality, it's the observers, neural police detectives who can jack directly into people's minds and experience their memories, fears, and traumas firsthand. It's a cyberpunk nightmare where your thoughts aren't private, where trauma becomes evidence, and where the very technology meant to protect society becomes the ultimate tool of oppression. In this world, being guilty of a crime is bad, but being innocent and having an observer root around in your head might be worse. Station 11. 20 years ago, the Georgia flu swept across the globe in a matter of days, killing 99% of humanity and ending civilization as we know it. But this isn't your typical zombie apocalypse or nuclear wasteland. It's something quieter and perhaps more terrifying. The slow, gradual realization that everything you took for granted is simply gone forever. No more internet, no more airplanes, no more antibiotics, no more electric lights, no more of the intricate web of global infrastructure that kept 8 billion people alive. The Traveling Symphony, a group of actors and musicians, wanders the scattered settlements of the Great Lakes region performing Shakespeare and classical music, carrying the motto, "Survival is insufficient," the idea that humanity needs art and culture to remain human. But survival is actually pretty difficult when every minor injury could be fatal, when winter means potential starvation, and when other survivors might be religious fanatics led by a prophet who collects wives and believes the pandemic was God's will. The Walking Dead. What happens when the dead refuse to stay dead? Maybe the real monsters aren't shambling corpses. They're the living people who've decided that morality is a luxury they can no longer afford. The zombie apocalypse was just the opening act. The main show is watching civilization tear itself apart, as survivors form brutal communities and engage in slavery, cannibalism, and wholesale slaughter of other human beings. The walkers are just a background threat. The real drama comes from communities that use rape as a weapon, leaders who solve problems with baseball bats wrapped in barbed wire, and people who wear zombie skin to blend in with the dead because they've given up on being human. It's a world where hope is dangerous, trust gets you killed, and the question isn't whether you'll become a monster, but what kind of monster you'll choose to be. Dishonored. Welcome to Dunwall, a whaling city powered by whale oil and choking on its own industrial ambitions. The Empire of the Isles has built its prosperity on the backs of massive sea creatures, but their greed has awakened something ancient and hungry in the depths. A rat plague sweeps through the city, turning victims into zombie-like weepers who shamble through the streets spreading disease and madness. But the real plague is corruption. The government uses the crisis to impose martial law, eliminate political enemies, and consolidate power among the wealthy elite. The poor are quarantined in wall-of-light barriers that incinerate anyone trying to escape, while the rich retreat to their towers and parties. It's a steampunk nightmare where whale oil powers everything, and where the line between justice and revenge is almost invisible. The Purge. Once a year for 12 hours, all crime is legal. Welcome to the new Founding Fathers America, where the annual Purge has supposedly solved unemployment, reduced crime, and created a perfect society by giving people one night to release their violent impulses. Of course, this is complete propaganda designed to disguise what the Purge really is: systematic genocide of the poor, minorities, and anyone else the ruling class considers undesirable. The wealthy retreat to their fortified mansions with high-tech security systems, while the poor are left defenseless on the streets to be hunted by roving gangs, government death squads, and neighbors who've been waiting all year for a legal excuse to settle scores. The Purge doesn't reduce violence. It institutionalizes it, creates a culture where brutality is celebrated, and trains an entire society to see murder as patriotic duty. Those who can't afford protection are essentially sentenced to death once a year, while the rich get to feel morally superior for participating in the Purge by hosting elegant dinner parties where they bid on poor people to hunt. It's a system designed to eliminate social programs by eliminating the people who need them, wrapped in the flag and sold as traditional American values. The most terrifying part isn't the 12 hours of legal murder. It's the other 9,000 hours of the year when people live normal lives knowing they've built everything on an annual night of sanctioned slaughter. Never let me go. Imagine discovering that your entire life has been a carefully orchestrated lie designed to make you compliant until the moment you're harvested for spare parts. Welcome to Hailsham, a seemingly idyllic English boarding school where children create art, play sports, and receive a well-rounded education. Except they're not really children. They're clones created specifically to provide organs for their originals. They're called students. Their inevitable fate is called completion, and their organ donations are called gifts. The most chilling aspect isn't the medical horror. It's how the clones have internalized their own dehumanization. They don't rebel or escape. They accept their roles as spare parts with resignation and even pride. The guardians who raise them aren't monsters. They're well-meaning people who genuinely care for the clones while still participating in a system of institutionalized murder. There are rumors of deferrals for clones who can prove they're truly in love, but even this hope is eventually revealed as another cruel lie. The Iron Heel. In early 20th century America, Jack London's socialist revolution has been crushed by the Iron Heel, a brutal oligarchy of corporate titans and their mercenary armies. The wealthy elite have abandoned any pretense of democracy or capitalism and established a naked fascist state where workers are divided into castes, with skilled laborers forming a privileged class called the labor aristocracy, while the masses are driven into underground ghettos. The Iron Heel doesn't just control the economy, they control reality itself through propaganda, surveillance, and the systematic elimination of anyone who threatens their power. Socialist leaders are assassinated, labor organizers disappear into torture chambers, and entire communities are bombed into submission by private corporate armies. The Iron Heel maintains control not just through violence, but through carefully managed class divisions that pit workers against each other while the oligarchs live in unprecedented luxury. It's a world where capitalism has evolved into feudalism, where corporate power has replaced government entirely, and where the only choice left is between submission and underground resistance. The Circle. Welcome to The Circle, a tech company that's like Google, Facebook, and Amazon, rolled into one corporation with a friendly face and totalitarian ambitions. In this paradise, everything is free, everyone is brilliant, and the company's mission is to make the world more connected and transparent. Sounds great, right? Except the Circle's version of transparency means mandatory participation in social media, constant monitoring of employees' personal lives, and the gradual elimination of privacy as a concept. When the Circle develops sea change, Tiny, cheap cameras that can be placed anywhere, they sell it as democratizing surveillance, giving everyone the power to hold authority accountable. But what they're really creating is a panopticon where every moment of every person's life is being recorded and broadcast. The Circle doesn't need to force compliance. They make surveillance feel like empowerment, make privacy seem selfish, and make constant connection feel like moral obligation. Politicians go transparent to prove they have nothing to hide. Parents put cameras in their children's bedrooms to keep them safe, and anyone who wants to opt out is treated as suspicious or antisocial. The most oppressive surveillance state in history is built not through force, but through voluntary participation in your own monitoring. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a comment if you have any suggestions for future videos, and don't forget to subscribe.